You're listening to Polymatic.media, episode 103 for June 2023. Welcome to the Polymaticast. Hey, John, we didn't have like a big therapy session yet.
Hopefully that's good.
Yeah, isn't the podcast? Yeah.
I hope it's good then.
Yeah, I was going to ask you how you're doing because we didn't really get into that, but maybe that's an hour of recording that we don't want.
Let's not do that.
yeah. We can talk off mic. So it's been a month. I don't know.
What do you think about my release schedule this month?
I liked it. It wasn't before the end of the month. It was surprising. It was only a couple weeks after. I don't know what happened.
It was like less than a week after.
Yeah. But it wasn't the last day of the month, so that's good.
Yeah, that's good. It took me a week to edit stuff.
I don't
I did have a vacation, so I did most of that during the week. So
I'm a little lazy. I give myself one day before I do the edit and then do the release.
Yeah.
So, I give myself that buffer. So in those cases when I'm traveling or something, then, I do it either the same night of the recording or I do it, the Monday after, right? So the day after when I do recording. So I don't know, for me, I just get it done. So that's out of the way, because if I don't get it done, it'll never get done.
I got lots of stuff to do, so yeah. I do a lot of artwork streams and stuff, so it takes a lot of time. So what I did is I just popped it onto a portable disk and moved it to the ArtStation, installed Audition on it, and started editing on there.
Oh, got it.
So while I was streaming, I had it under the background and just going through it and just click. Like when I found something I needed to edit, I just went through it and it's like, okay.
The way I used to do it is I wouldn't say it would be a struggle, but it'd be a lot. It'd be a lot of energy, right, to get the crowd together, do the recording, to just sort of get it in motion. And then you just sort of got conditioned to, well, these are the decisions I'm going to make. And that's my schedule and that's it. I never change it, right? And so some part of me is like, I have the energy. I could go work on the thing. And then I just no, I'm going to be lazy and waste my time watching a terrible TV show on that Monday night instead of just getting it out of the way. And then the other part of my brain goes, well, if you get it done early, then you'll have nothing to do on the expectation that you want. And I'm like, you're good. That's a good argument too. And so I just sort of keep it.
Help me. That helped me with I did have a moment where I was like, oh, I still need to edit the podcast. Oh wait, I already did. I released it a week ago.
Yeah.
Every weekend I'm like, oh yeah, I have to do editing the podcast. Nope.
No, but I will say that my brain doesn't stop. Oh, that'd be a good podcast topic for this Otaku's life. But I don't miss having to worry about anything on Thursdays. It doesn't even feel like, oh, great, I don't have to do that. It's like, oh, right, I don't do that anymore. So I don't have to worry about that responsibility on my Thursday. I'll go do something else. And, so it's good. That's a good thing. And, one podcast to produce, not really produce, but to be responsible for is good. That's okay. Though when I do have to release someone else's podcast, they still... Look, you only remember the bad times. You don't remember when they got it in early, but they wait, they can wait 2 hours before midnight. They do. Sometimes they wait 3 hours after midnight. And I'm like, well, here's the deal. You want to get it on time. That's great. You guys had 2 weeks. I don't know why you're sending it to me, 6 hours before midnight. Guys, you got a whole week to sit around and not work on it, and then spend an hour editing your thing and then getting it to me. You have lots of bandwidth to be lazy about the world to go edit the thing. Guys, you gotta do better than sending to me 30 minutes before I'm done. I'm going to sleep, guys. Right.
Well, I think for me the thing is there's nobody else depending on me, so it's
right.
It's nobody else has to do editing for this. So
yeah, and that's the one thing, and I've set up those other shows for those people to be responsible for their stuff, so I don't have to. That's why
Also, nobody has to upload it for me because I do that myself.
Right, yeah. The only primary reason for that is because the tools didn't exist, or the hosting services didn't have like team profiles or anything like that. And they kind of do now, but in the same respect, it's good that there's a constraint because it requires them to commit, right? And like Kyle and Luke have been doing that for 11 years maybe. 9 years, 10 years. I think they're coming around 10 years. But point being is it forces a constraint because it's now something that goes in their success pool of things that's in their portfolio of stuff that they share with the world. And to do that, they can't just sort of laze about. They have to get together. I mean, it's not like they don't live like a couple doors down from each other, and just get their stuff together and get it done and get it to me. Sometimes it's, hey guys, I'm away. I'm not home. Can you get it to me before, Saturday? Yeah. Of course, it's 11:59, 2 a.m. in the morning. The thing shows up. Yeah, it's ready to publish. I'm like, guys, you can do better. Why aren't you doing better?
You should automate this. Just let them email the MP3 file, and then it automatically uploads it for you.
No, because I always have to tweak the file. They never. I asked for a certain standard of stuff, and no, I got to rewrite their ID3 format and it had to be consistent. And I have to make decisions. There's a short amount of decisions, but so again, I out the biggest problem for me, because now they sort of publish through me. Everyone else sort of the website just consumes the feed, so it's good. I've set it up, those future things, so I don't have to be the center point of the publishing. But in the same respect, when I am, it helps constrain routine, which give people opportunity to have a routine, and they won't. They won't. And, so.
Anyway.
All right, there you go. There's my rant. There's therapy.
Your therapy. So I got an upgrade for my Steam Deck.
Yeah.
I went from a 256 gig to a 1 terabyte disk. And I'm trying to find the little box. So I bought a Sabarinth Rocket 1 terabyte SSD. Yeah. And it's it comes in one of these copperish looking cases. It's that's the size of the box that came in my mail.
Oh, got it.
So it's a small envelope around it, and then this was in it in a tiny little box.
It used to be, if you bought a professional something, you would get a professional hard case or something for video equipment. And now they have these styrofoam jobbies that sit in a cardboard box that is for shipping. But they used to not do that for prosumer or consumer level things. No one cared about packaging. It was a thing that you tore apart so that you can get to the center of it, And
but I don't realize how this is a good idea. They could have made it Samsung has switched to all paper. Their packaging is cardboard, which is great,
right?
Because it's easy to recycle,
right?
But this is a metal case, which I'm only going to use once. On the inside, there's a foam thing. Now, the SSD is great, I love it, but why?
But
does
it's
it
a
need
case
to be
for
metal?
the old one. It's a case for the old one.
Yeah, but it's not a case. It doesn't do anything.
Right.
Maybe the inside foam is ESD or something. That might be the case. But still, why?
Right.
Is
it seems I get it from a packaging perspective, right? A design thing is. My rant was that we used to not do that, and now because of Apple and their extreme packaging.
Apple is also cardboard these days. It's all cardboard
nowadays, but they used to not be.
Yeah,
but they made this whole aesthetic of opening and your unboxing thing, which is you only do once, and if you're a YouTuber, you do it twice on camera, right? And that's it, right? It always infuriated me that they put these really super thin magnets in your packages.
So there's a magnet in this thing.
Yeah, yeah. And so when they're made out of cardboard, there was one day when I was, especially when I was moving all this stuff, I was like, I'm going to be tossing all this stuff out. And it's like, I'm going to extract those magnets. And of course, they're wedged in there and glued in there. And then I literally came up with this big stack of little thin magnets that, one, you can't buy anywhere. You can't like Amazon a bulk of those thin magnets.
Oh yeah, you
They're
can.
all no,
Oh yeah,
not the super,
definitely you
not the
can.
paper thin ones.
Oh
Like
yeah.
they have ones. Oh, okay. So I couldn't find them, but I had a
And
stack
otherwise,
of
you can get
them
them
right over
on.
there, and
Otherwise, you can get them on eBay or on
oh, maybe on eBay. I never
on.
looked there.
But I've bought magnets from
I'm sure if
Amazon.
you AliExpress them, you could find them.
Oh yeah,
But
AliExpress too.
point being is that's not a like a typical thing you can get. So I was like, it seems like such a waste for me to be throwing them out in the trash because I'm done with the box, right? So I don't do it always, but every once in a while I get a thought. It's like I'm going to extract that. I'm going to cut it out,
Magnet
right, just
hoarder.
so I have it. Well, again, you laugh at me, but then when I got here, there were a couple things. They have these particular lights that they put in houses. You see them in everyone's video, and these hanging spheres. I will say it that way
Yeah,
to be
yeah,
as
yeah.
nice.
You've named them before.
Yeah. And and so like one of them, the whatever it was loose. So it's like, oh, I finally figured out how to get into them. There's a screw underneath that cap, but I don't know how you normally take that cap off. And I'm sure the first time I need to get to that cap, I am probably going to break the glue. But I got this little thin magnets, which are perfect. I can snap them back up. So, like, again, you laugh at me, but then I did it a
I
couple
did not laugh
times.
for the record.
And, well, yeah, because you're Dutch. And so I have this thin little magnet, and you can super glue it underneath the cap, and it's perfect. It fits perfectly, so I can use those, repurpose the magnets. But yeah, it seems like a waste that we have these great package designs that we open once.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
but like for example, those Samsung ones, they're great.
Mm-hmm.
The boxes, even like for the T7s and whatever, they're
Mm-hmm.
no longer plastic. They're all paper,
Yeah.
and that's great.
The little case, is that at least good for something like an SD card or something? I mean, if it's a
No,
single use case though.
it's really single use. You could put
Hmm.
the old one back in here. That's
Right.
an idea, but I
That's about the extent of it.
already have like an
Right.
NVMe
Yeah.
SSD
Enclosure. Yeah.
enclosure, so I can reuse
Yeah.
the SSD. But yeah, I that's
It'd
the
be
only
nice
thing
if.
that bothered me about it. But besides that, the actual upgrade was super easy. It
Hmm.
was like, oh yeah, but you have to be careful with the screws and whatever. No, that's fine.
So I don't have a Steam Deck, so I'm not invested in these details. Is Steam? Are they open minded about like you going in and just doing
Yep,
upgrades to? Okay.
the
Good.
everything is on iFixit.
Oh.
You can
Okay.
get
Got it.
parts and whatever from iFixit, even
Oh,
like
yeah. Perfect.
replacement screens if you want to get the higher tier screen. And with this 1 terabyte SSD, it's really nice. I'm probably going to be installing the there's a new launcher thing that you can install like all the other like BattleNet and EA and all
Oh,
sorts of other launchers,
interesting.
and you can just run them through Proton to run them
Oh,
on Linux.
nice.
So
Do they have a Uplay or whatever in there as
I
well?
don't know.
Because that's the
Uh,
thing that kept me from buying other things. Like I don't own an Epic made game at all because I don't want another freaking launcher. Steam
oh,
is
but this
enough.
is for like this is for on the Steam Deck.
Right, I understand
So
that.
it is
I
to
know not a
run.
replacement for your PC. I understand
No,
for
it
just the
installs the
Steam.
launcher, but it
Oh, it
installs
does.
it through like that system where you can just.
I guess for me, I guess I care a little less on the Steam. I care about like another bit of massive amount of bloat on my PC. Right, I just sort of
So
hate that.
it's Ubisoft.
Ubisoft does it.
So
Obviously, Epic
it
Games. So if
has
you
Amazon
afford
Game
it,
Launcher, BattleNet, EA, Epic, GOG, Humble Bundle, Indie Gala, itch.io, Legacy Games, Origin,
mm-hmm.
um, Rockstar, Ubisoft, Glyph, and Minecraft.
Yeah, I guess Minecraft does has its own launcher, but it's
Yep.
not like it's a. Well, I guess it is. It used to not be. It was just its launcher, right, for Java. But now
Yeah, and on the
it's
Steam
other
Deck, you
version of
probably want to
Minecraft
run
and.
like the different launcher for it anyway, because
Hmm.
it's a better setup.
Hmm.
Because you can install mods and whatever for it
Yeah,
very
so
easily.
I got Minecraft Legends, and I have yet to like invest the time to start playing the game.
Would you ever get a Steam Deck? Do you think?
My use case for portable gaming is really nothing.
Yeah.
That being said, there are some games that I like that are on Steam, and that in contention with my graphics card sometimes has a fit, right? I like playing Battletopia, but Battletopia seems to freeze on an occasion. Well, more on an occasion, enough to be an irritation, where I have to like quickly do the reset of the graphics card a couple times and then do Control Alt Delete. And by no improvement of driver updates or anything does this problem go away. And it's not unique. It's unique to Steam games, but the one that gets it kicked the most is Battletopia.
Hmm.
Um, the Battle of Polytopia. I always just call it Battletopia, but it's the Polytopia. It's the Alanisms of Battletopia. I mean, I know
Oh
you
no.
know what I mean, but no one else, Steve, I think at this point knows what I mean.
Hello, Steve.
Um, yeah, hi, Steve. Um, that's a joke that will never go away, and all of like four people who listen, get to hear it. Anyhow, so I like playing that game. I just do. I play it too much, and it's the kind of thing that I play while letting something on the other side monitor, like a movie or something, play.
Hmm.
Um, but it does have. I don't know. Months ago, it just started to have this problem with where it hurts the graphics card, and I can hear the system. I can hear the graphics card fans go on,
Are
and
you sure? Are you sure? Maybe not your. There might be some issue with with your machine, because
no,
you
because
had some fan issues and your cooler is
yeah,
not
no,
great.
I have a little thing like where I check the CPU spike stuff, and I have a little like rain meter plugin that's always running, and no, the CPU is not spiking out. Graphics card all of a sudden just has some reason it goes and spikes up, and during those scenarios, and it might not get me while I'm playing the game. I could be stopping the game, so it's clearly, however, it's utilizing the graphics driver that's problematic.
Hmm.
And I've been shutting down a game where everything the gameplay was fine, no problems, and then trying to stop the game. Something is not right in the OS. Something's not right, because that problem
Hmm.
happens. And again,
Are you sure
with the
it's
luxury
Steam?
of
Are you sure it's not something else?
it only happens when I'm running Steam games.
Yeah.
Nothing else.
Hmm.
It's just uniquely tied to Steam. I don't know.
Your Windows 11, right?
Yeah, Windows 11.
Okay.
It could be the DirectX problem. I don't know. I mean, really, that's the only place that's really utilizing.
But you don't really
Um,
use any other games besides stuff from Steam.
Aside from Minecraft, which is never a problem,
Yeah, but that's
Java or not.
Java, so
No, no. Even when I was doing the Bedrock edition, it was not never a problem.
yeah. But like there's nothing around it. So there's no launcher around it, which is
Right.
usually the
Yeah.
thing.
But again, I mean, I
But you
can
don't have any
run.
other launchers like, for example, EA or whatever.
I have the Ubisoft one for Anno, but I have played Anno of all of like maybe a total of an hour. When one day I was like, I bought this game, I should play the game, and then I went through its campaign routine or something, and then I was like, okay, I had enough of playing this game for a while. I'm gonna go do something else,
Hmm.
and that was like months ago.
Anyway, so I
Yeah,
bought the an upgrade. It was
yeah.
actually really nice, very inexpensive upgrade, and yeah, it's better. It's bigger than the maximum size you can get for the standard one. So,
Mm-hmm.
so
I
I think the
saw
top one is like 512. So
yeah, I saw a TikTok video of someone who I guess it was clearly an advertisement, but it was like, hey, I 3D printed my thing out, whatever it was. But they had a dock that is meant to hold your Steam Deck, kind of like under the keyboard, like a keyboard tray underneath your desk or whatever it is. And it has like USB dock, and then they just show like plugging in the HDMI, and it connects up to it's like a USB dock for your Steam Deck.
Yeah, but there's an official one where you can put your Steam Deck into.
Okay, this was not from.
Okay.
I don't know who the official manufacturer is, but it's not from Steam themselves.
That's the one thing that I don't like about the Steam Deck, the charger location. There's one USB connector to it, and there's only one, which is the same problem that the Switch has. But on the Switch, it is at the bottom.
It's on the bottom.
There's a bottom thing. On the Steam Deck, it is at the top, which is super annoying.
So, I mean, if you have it vertical like you would, let's say, the Switch, I can totally understand where that would be kind of ugly. If you have it sort of under your desk where you should have horizontally dock.
It is a PC. Just put 2 on there.
Right. Yeah, I got you.
They could have spent like the extra 10 cents for the little board and the little chip you need.
10 cents. It's like 3 cents.
Whatever. For the entire fucking assembly.
Yeah, I understand.
It would have been so much nicer.
Well, that's the opportunity for a single improvement that pisses everyone off in the next version. So you have to have a reason to sell your old one and buy your new one.
Yeah, just make a caddy that goes on the back. Just
of course,
has
they'll
like
change.
two different connector points for the USB-C. Oh. Or they do a Magic Mouse version where you just stick it in the back and the back.
So to answer your question, I was traveling a couple weeks ago for work, and I did bring my Switch, but it basically just sort of stayed in the backpack. I was just sort of wasn't flying long enough. My whole sort of, and then when I was there, I was in town. I was basically, was doing work related things those evenings when it wasn't like the primary day. I was the reason I was in town. So I just never had an opportunity to use my Switch. So having a Steam Deck wouldn't make any difference for me, right?
Well, you can
sort of
play a
scenario.
Battle of Polytopia or Battletopia.
Yeah. I would just call it that nickname.
Let's see. Actually,
yeah, and I get it. The only reason to play a piece of like a separate piece of hardware like that would be because I always have a software problem. Which would be a stupid reason to do that, right? So
it plays on the Steam Deck.
I would hope so.
I just checked it. So
yeah.
Okay. So I got an upgrade, and I'm considering installing like EA and whatever to play games like what's it called? Replay Mass Effect and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Seems like a fun.
So let me ask the question: where do you? You're doing it mostly handheld with your Steam Deck, or are you having it docked?
Yeah, I always handheld for a Steam Deck. Why would I get it? Why would I dock it? Like I got a PC here.
I don't know. I mean, like sometimes people that is their console, right? So they see it as their console at home, and they are in a scenario like I'm rarely in, which is you travel and then you also play then too.
Yeah, and but the idea was to get it to like to play stuff like Terraria and stuff like that. It's not. It wasn't meant for like actual games like, for example, Forbidden West or Zero Dawn, Horizon Zero Dawn,
AAA games or whatever.
Yeah, they actually do play pretty nice. Cyberpunk and Horizon play very nice. It's a very good.
Well, I have places.
And also the mapping for like the controls is really good. So yeah, I love it.
Where I was going with this was, even though I have like places in the house I could loaf about, I don't have the furniture yet, but even when I do, I can't imagine I'll be sitting there on the couch playing the Switch.
Yeah, but the cool thing about
at that point I would dock it to the TV or the projector or something.
The cool thing about it is you can hook it up to your PC. So you can have your PC do the streaming, and then you can do it internally in your house. You can stream like games to your
Right.
Steam Deck. So you can use it as like a Steam Link, like the old things, and you can just.
So until I was started to think about the trip and taking my Switch and making sure it was charged, I literally connected up to the dock. I put it on the shelf that's sort of in the first floor common area, and it wasn't even on the house Wi-Fi yet. Like I let it there. It had been sitting there for basically nearly 8 months,
that
just
must have taken a
charging.
very long time to recharge then.
No. It was the battery was fine. I just like I don't know what I'm doing with this. I'll set up the dock right here at all because I didn't set up a TV setup or anything in the house, so I didn't have like an entertainment center to go like put it in. I literally was just sitting on the shelf, and I was like, "Oh, this is where my Switch is." Oh, okay. I was like, "Oh, it's charged. Great." So I don't have to worry about that. Oh, is it? Let me see if there's any updates. Oh, there's no updates. Oh, it's not on the house Wi-Fi. Like I must have when I moved in. I unearthed it from a box. I stuck it on the shelf, and then I hadn't touched it for 8 months. Like that's what was going on.
I got Tears of the Kingdom for the Switch.
You know,
Yep.
it's on my mind, man. I watch other people play.
You should definitely get it. It's very good.
Saying,
Did you ever finish Breath of the Wild?
no, nope, never finished it.
Okay.
Because some of the shrines were just too difficult for me. And I never.
You don't have to get all shrines. You can just finish it.
Right. So
just go straight up to the
I
castle.
Couldn't find. There were a couple things that I couldn't find, so I just didn't finish it. And then again, I haven't played it in a while.
Did you get the master? Did you get the master sword?
No.
Oh, okay. So if you have enough hearts, you can pull the master sword. And then you can go to the castle, and you get a bow and stuff from Zelda, and then you can just fight the final boss.
Never did any of that stuff, and I think I didn't hit any of the bosses or whatever the 4 I need to hit. Couldn't even find them. That was the one thing.
Didn't. Oh, okay.
I got off the first whatever initial tutorial thing. I'm well into but where I was basically couldn't figure out how to survive, didn't matter how much stamina I had, was what is it, the village at the top where there's the library with the big old telescope?
Oh yeah. With
I could never I could never sort of fly across the way. I get to the mountain and then I basically freeze to death immediately. So I could never get over that.
Okay.
That's it. That's and then I thought, okay, maybe I need some of the shrines to power up or something. No,
yep, you do. But most of them are so easy. There's
I know. I didn't didn't and I moved on to other games, and then that was the end of it. So I never came back to it.
But definitely play Breath of the Wild first. Finish that one first.
I do, but while watching my friend play, hanging out when he streams occasionally, watching him play. I like that you can construct things. That's the really thing I like in Tears of the Kingdom. It looks really nice.
Yeah.
So it looks like a game that I would totally play and totally enjoy. But I don't have sort of a scenario where I really play this, my Switch that often. So I don't really invest in playing or buying any new games for it. So, and I'm not like a Mario Party person. So I'm not, I'm not playing that on the weekly with like friends online or in person.
Animal Crossing.
Animal Crossing, yeah. Every time I go, they all just mad at me. Look, aside from like unlocking the cafe, I don't know what is it. What more is it in Animal Crossing?
I haven't played Animal Crossing in a while.
Yeah, I mean, like I played it during the pandemic because it was something to do on the regular, and it was interesting, and they made some updates, and then I turned it on when I had sort of powered up the Switch, and aside from like updates needed from being on your Wi-Fi network and everyone being mad at me in the village, like I don't know what was I doing? I was just burning time.
Yep.
So, and it was an excuse to burn some time in, Animal Crossing.
Well, there's the new expansion, right, for the Holiday Island stuff.
Okay. So then I don't know any of that.
Yeah, but it's like you have to buy that expansion.
Okay. Well.
And then they said, "Oh yeah, now this is the last update we're gonna get." There's no more updates to it.
Is there a new version coming?
Nope.
Okay.
But that's probably until the next Switch or something.
Right. Okay.
Or whatever they come up with next.
Yeah, I mean, I think I have to have purpose in some of these games, especially if they're sort of open ended. It's the same kind of problem with like Minecraft, right? It's open world, which I love, but in the same respect, sometimes I have to make my own projects, right? So, I
Yeah,
made
well,
a
for
side
me, it was like
project.
getting all the different flowers, breeding all the different flowers and stuff like that.
Yeah,
It's like the
I don't care
daily
that
going
much.
through things. I
Yeah,
think there might be some stuff in your mail, by the way. In
coming.
your what?
I mean, coming.
No, in the mail
In the
in
mailbox on the. Oh, okay. Well, I
yeah.
haven't. I turned again. Like I said, I hadn't touched the Switch for 8 months basically since
Oh
I
yeah,
moved,
well then
and I
it's
only
probably
touched
gone
it
by
to
now.
move it. So, yeah, I haven't ventured in there before. In the last setup, I didn't move these monitors that sort of on the system that I'm on. They're now attached to the studio recording system. But I had at least one of these or both of these sort of as above my big monitors in the last setup. And so now I'm dependent on them being on this system that we're talking through. So I need to probably get a couple other monitors so that I can rig up things like, the Atom, the ATEM, or or like a Switch or something, as a thing to play,
Hmm.
you know. So I don't know.
Yeah,
It hadn't been a priority.
so far, Tears of the Kingdom has been very entertaining, but I'm holding off on diving in because I'm going to be on a trip in a few weeks. So,
Oh, and that's the perfect op.
that's yeah, train for a couple of hours. So,
Right.
might be a good idea to have some stuff to play.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be fun. But I'm in doubt. Should I bring my Steam Deck or should I bring my Switch?
I know you. You're going to bring both.
I'm not going to bring both.
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
then you're going to bring your Stream Deck.
Yeah.
The Steam
Well,
Deck. I say
Steam
Stream
Deck.
Deck.
Yeah.
Steam
Stream Deck
Deck.
is something else. I could
Yeah,
bring
that's
it.
something else. You could, but it won't work unless it's attached to your laptop, and then what's the purpose of that?
Yeah. So I have on the list two backpacks. One, the LTT backpack. You were on a trip recently, and how was the experience?
It was good. So what I was doing is I always bought sort of. There was never a good brand to go to, and the brands to go to, whatever they were, they're always like $500 for a thing that was only like 25% of what you needed, but you're paying for the premium, whatever branding. And so I just never bought those fancy bags because it just seemed like super waste of money. It's like, how was it? Supreme comes out with a brick and everyone spends $900 for a brick, right? That seemed to be like what I felt about backpacks. So I'd always go to Micro Center and just get like a messenger bag, jobby, whatever. It cost me $30, and I might ruin it over the course of 3 years, but it served me perfectly for my day to day. So I never really found a brand. And then one time I went on the venture of finding a brand and I found Herschel. And Herschel makes really good stuff. Case Logic makes some pretty good things. If you want to, they're not really meant for laptop bags, but like Peak Design makes really good graphic bags. And so you can kind of cross them into whatever you need, but they're very tweaked for very special purposes, and those pockets and those scenarios are very specific to those scenarios for those imagine cases when you're traveling about. And I just found Herschel, which was 10% of what I needed from a backpack, which was the daily commute kind of thing. It's great enough for me to slip a work laptop or my personal laptop into it and put a bunch of technology stuff in the big old pocket. All right. And that's kind of like, and I have a couple Herschel bags where I felt like one was too limiting and the other one I needed an upgrade. And they're both well made and they're great, but they're really good for very limited daily use cases. And so I use one of them to take my work laptop into the office, along with my coffee and my water bottle. But for travel, the LTT backpack was amazing. I wouldn't use it as a daily. It's a little too big for me on the daily. But it's great for putting my Switch in there, plus my big work laptop, plus like 3 or 4 different mouse options because I had them and that's just where I put them, and 2 batteries for like powering the laptop and or all my devices, plus every freaking cable, and still having a little room to breathe, and then put my water bottle in the backpack, when I'm traveling on the plane. Like, it's perfect for that. I will say though, it's like a piece of luggage in terms of fitting in the overhead bin in terms of like, in the airplane, right? It's not as big as a piece of roll, suitcase, but it's the first backpack where I actually didn't sling it. I put both my arms through the things and it was comfortable. And so all those little annoying things that, Line is sort of is persnickety about really come through, because where they've always been a problem and inconvenient for me in those cases with other things, they just weren't. So not only impressed, it was like a godsend to have it. So yeah. So it's great for your technology. It's not great for putting your clothes in. Like, I wouldn't do that. You don't travel with it to be your only backpack, right?
Is there enough space for like power banks and whatever?
Yeah. Yeah, I had my Shark Geek and an Anchor one. And I think another Anchor one. So I had like an older Anchor one that's pretty big. That's like one of those slim ones, like 20,000 milliamp, and then the Shark Geek, which is like a big old heavy brick, but great power bank. So yeah, no, it was great. With that being said, not all my devices fit perfectly in all the pockets, so when you sort of jam, like, you can only get one, like the MX Master. You can't get the
Yeah.
MX Master and like 6 other mice in there. Like, okay, 6 other mice is okay. That's an exaggeration. 2 other mice, right? And you go, well, why would you do that? Well, because if I take the G900 with the Bluetooth, the little like dongle, right? Sometimes the Bluetooth doesn't work well. And it's not because the mouse needs to be charged. It's like an update is happening or something, and your Bluetooth devices are not universally perfect all the time. And when you need them to be, I was like, oh, I just switched mice and I have a hard line basically through that dongle, right? So having 2 mice is good, but then you got to give them their dedicated pockets, which means you can't put small little dongles or wires and crap in there. You got to find another pocket for it. So, there's plenty of opportunity for that thing, and it worked out really well. So I was very impressed, and I'm glad that I paid actually, I don't want to say I paid a high price for it, because there are backpacks that I bought that cost just as much and do a lot less for you. So, so yeah, this is good.
I got a new backpack too, because
Yeah.
I used to have a one of those with a solar cell on the back. It was the what's the name of that backpack? It's like but it was branded with the company. So from the company we got it. There's brand logo on the side.
Yeah.
So, and I'm going to an anime convention, and having a backpack with the company logo on the back is probably not a good idea.
Yeah. I had one duffel bag from a company that I work for that I don't really care that it has. First thing, the company has sort of renamed itself, so that company isn't relevant. Name isn't relevant anymore. But the duffel bag was so good. I normally you toss those things out, right? But the duffel bag was so good, so I keep it. I use it actually.
So I got a Thule Accent 15-inch. Thule's like a brand from Sweden. They make pretty nice backpacks, and it has like a space for a protected space on the top for like glasses or sunglasses and stuff, so that you can just put your glasses in there and it'll be safe. It's like hard, like I think there's like a plastic cup in there. You put your stuff in there.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And it has enough space for like a laptop, a tablet, another tablet, and like all sorts of other stuff, and like for tripod and on the side, and like water bottle on the side and whatever. And it's really nice. It's called the Thule Accent.
Yeah.
If you go to Polymatic link/1AX, it is that's the link for the model, and it's really nice. And it's blue on the inside. It's probably where the accent thing is coming from.
Yeah.
But it's got so many like pockets and stuff to put stuff in, and it's really nice. And it even has like on the front, there's like a quick thing to open for like chargers and whatever. And on the side, there's a zipper. You can get into the laptop compartment. So you can, instead of like putting the laptop in from the top, you can put it in from the side and take it out from the side, which is really nice.
Interesting.
And it has a one of those shielded, for your passport and stuff.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't really do enough international traveling where I identified like the LTT pocket for that crap because I wouldn't know what it is. I just sort of find a pocket, stuff fits in it, and that's where I'm organizing all the cables. That's where it's all going. So,
if you want to get the LTT backpack, you know where to go. LTTstore.com. A message from our sponsor. A segue to our sponsor. That's it.
Our segue to our sponsor. You can find it out from our segue to our sponsor. All right. Yeah. It's a good backpack. So plenty of room for nothing. Yeah. But yeah, no, I didn't know about Thule just out of curiosity. I mean, at this point, I have the backpack that I need, so I'm not really in the market. But
they're good. I like them. They're really rugged. They apparently last for years, so that's nice. And I'm using it as my daily driver now. So
right.
Yeah, it was a little bit getting used to it because normally I can fold over, open the entire backpack. Because normally I could just zip all the way down and it flops open. So there's like a cup of like where you could put everything in there and then fold it back over and zip it closed. Yeah, you'd have everything in there. But that's also a problem because it makes a mess if you unzip it and then everything spills out.
Yeah,
this one has more pockets and stuff where you can put stuff in.
I had this thought where I probably could have emptied a water bottle and been completely dry, and I probably could have traveled with my water bottle, and I didn't because I'm so conditioned to like having my water bottle present and filled with liquid, and so that's the one thing the LTT backpack doesn't have. Inside, yes, it's plenty of room for you to put a big old water bottle, but
it doesn't have
outside,
a thing on the outside.
It has some kind of like side zipper pocket where you could put.
There's no mesh thing.
No, there isn't. No. And it was
weird.
barely enough to whatever overpriced water bottle that I paid for in the airport. It is sort of whatever side pocket thing there was to use that. It just, wasn't enough. Yeah. But anyhow, I mean, that's sort of a minor thing because if I was using on the daily, that would irritate me. But on my travel, it's one of those cases where they don't want you to be carrying water bottles. They want you to buy a water bottle, use the water bottle during your travel, and trash it inside the airport space, right? They don't want you to, bring your own liquids. Stuff
Actually,
like that.
In the Netherlands, if you go to the airport now, you can just take your water bottle through. They just put it in the scanner, and they just go through.
Right, and I had that thought where I have enough I have OGN. I have this one left OGN one, and that is for, I guess maybe two. Paul never picked up his, and the other one, Todd, was like, "Oh yeah, I want a water bottle." And I'm like, "Okay, I got it for you, dude. You just have to surface one day."
Oh, the one thing though, the LTT water bottles are metal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I have. I think I even linked it on the list of things. Did I do that? No, I didn't.
I will tell you, they're nice. I don't know where they're getting
metal water bottles are going to be a problem in the airport, but plastic ones are not.
Yeah,
I don't like the over here ones. At least. I don't know if
if I have a choice, it will always be one of these nice triple walled, thermos level water bottles, which is what LTT does. It's also
I'm actually surprised that the LTT backpack doesn't have like a mesh side thing where you can just stick your water bottle.
no. Well, I mean, I can go look at it.
No, it doesn't. I just checked. It doesn't have it. So you're
It's down
correct.
over. It's down over there. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
yeah, you're
didn't.
correct.
Well, at the time where I was like thinking about it, when I finally looked at it, it's like, oh, maybe I'll put the water bottle here, and I'm like, no, I got to put it inside somewhere. Inside, like, so I was traveling, and it was a really short trip, right? It was one day, all day, in a particular office, for the company, and so of course half of my Tuesday was traveling, and then I worked half the day, and then my Thursday back was basically the whole day traveling back because I couldn't get a direct flight. So, it was the whole thing was burned. So I was like, I have had some bad experiences even with short trips where I check in the luggage and then they ruin
Oh
everything.
yeah.
So I just took a duffel bag, right? And I filled it with my clothes, and then I took the LTT backpack and I filled it with the technology, and I carried everything. Because my uses were I didn't need the whole suitcase, right? I didn't need to do all that. And
Hmm. It might be a
and
good idea to
so
bring a duffel bag instead of a suitcase for my trip.
yeah, yeah,
Because it's
well,
like 5 days. I'm.
it's also the same thing when I go and I do Otakon, for example. I basically fill it mostly with staff shirts and, like the underwear stuff and my, the stuff I need for like, toothbrushes and crap like that. And all that could fit in a duffel bag. And every year I bring a suitcase, which eats up a lot of room in my car. And I'm like, why am I doing that? Because I know that I'm going to wear, and they're still clean, even though if I'm there for like a week, I wear 3 staff shirts, and they're fine. Like, I don't need to take, 2 weeks worth of staff shirts because I'm going to sweat through them, because I don't, because the whole environment is air conditioned.
Hmm.
I'm never sort of wearing myself out I mean, I'm physically wearing myself out, but I'm never like sweating up. I'm not that person. So I don't know why I carry suitcases worth of stuff that I don't use. And so, yeah. And so in this case, I didn't need a week's worth of clothing. I needed really just 3 days worth of clothing. And it was easy to fit in a small duffel bag, a gym bag, basically. I'm calling it a duffel bag. It was a gym bag. That plus the LTT backpack was, and my Scotty vest, which means I can pull, I have more pockets on my jacket that I'm in. Between those 3 things, I was solid.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I'm worried about is bringing power banks because those power banks, you know,
Right. So I can't speak to your side of the world. And I can't speak to, like, places where your passport is necessary between, countries or something. But in my case, they didn't seem to care. So when I went through Philly, they made me take
mm,
everything out, everything except no, leave all your techno, take your laptop out, but keep everything in the bag. And I went through, and that was easy peasy. Um, and power banks were in my bag, and they didn't seem to
mm.
care. So at least in the U.S. for the regional flights or whatever it was, they didn't seem to care. They just sort of expect it. So, but also these are under whatever the appropriate limit, under 100 watt, whatever it is, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
like
there's like
I won't
a
get in trouble for having too big of a battery bank.
yeah, I think it was like 24,000 milliamp hours. I think it's like the limit
Oh,
or
is it?
something
Okay.
like that. There's like a limit. I don't know the exact ones, but yeah.
This Shar Geek can power. I mean, it doesn't have the connectors for it, but it can put out like 130 watts or something. But it's not a 130 watt battery. I'm looking on the end there for the details. Um, Output is, I think, capped at 100. I don't know what the battery size is in here, but it's pretty big, is my point. Um,
I've
and
got some stuff that I need to light up at that. anime convention, so I'm at a stand. So I have to make sure that I have enough power with me to light up some things. So
Yeah, so this stuff hasn't arrived yet. Because I have the Home Assistant up and running now. I bought something that was like $11 Wi-Fi adapter. That's some kind of generic thing that works your software that connects whatever. Point is, should be able to integrate the generic rebranding of the names through this primary software. And what I want to do is I want to be able to take drive an LED strip without like getting ESP modules and soldering and stuff. But I want to be able to drive it and set up a routine. So, for example, when I get when something comes from like Amazon where it says, "Hey, your thing has shipped. It has been delivered." I want to set up a routine so I can sort of mount a battery pack, like a slim battery pack, underneath the overhang of my cabinets that touch sort of above, rise. They're hanging above the floor, and put an LED strip underneath there and drive a routine so that the floor sort of illuminates. And so I was like, all right, I either have to go crazy and like figure out how to make it portable. I don't want to run wiring. I don't want to run electricity underneath the cabinets is my point. So if I could put one or two of those, then I can start to figure out a small little portable kit for cases like where I can build routines like that. So, like when the mail sensor goes off and something is tracking it, it can tell me, "Oh, you got mail," right? And I have like
will it say you got mail?
Well, so I do have that routine set up here on this speaker. If I'm here up on the third floor and someone triggers the mailbox sensor, it says you got mail.
Okay.
But if I'm down in the kitchen, I don't hear that, right? But I see it on my phone. Right, so I have it rigged that way for now. But anyhow, so I'm looking at like how do I sort of not have to solder and write my own code and go all out on how can I be lazy about it? So I put a kit together. I just recently ordered all that stuff. We'll see if it surfaces.
Have you seen those? Whenever I go look for power banks, there's like a lot of them are like what is it called? iWalk and Tiller with 2 L's. And
yeah, I'll be honest. Despite whatever allegations that are still present, it doesn't apply to the power banks. But I typically will look at Allkey or Anchor for power banks. I'm not an Apple person, so I'm not looking. Was it Mophie's the other one or something everyone likes?
Yeah, but there's lots of like unknown brands.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, sure, Geek is not a name you would naturally think would be a quality brand, but I'll tell you that power bank, that Storm 2, that thing's amazing. I love that.
Oh,
thing.
X-Storm.
No, this is Storm 2 is the model that I have here.
Oh, okay. Because there's a brand called X-Storm. That's pretty good.
Oh yeah, okay. So, but I have high success rate with Anchor. And so if I'm looking for, and in all honesty, I have too many, right? And the only reason I bought this slim one was because I'm like, I can with USB, I can power this, this is so slim that I could literally just use Joe's sticky stuff underneath the cabinet, pull it out when I want.
Sticky stuff. That sounds
or I do
really
a sticky
bad.
stuff on the back plane, and then I put Velcro on this. And then what I can do is I can just pull it out, charge it when I need, and it's going to be driving the thing that isn't going to be drawing a lot of power. And if I can get that little kit together, then I can. These things don't cost that much, and this is a 20,000 amp. This is a 20,000 amp. This is great. It's perfect. It's got a pouch battery, but it's perfect.
Okay.
For my use cases. So.
Okay. While we're going through all these things, we have a lot of tools that we use. So I asked if we could do like maybe an episode about tools. Now we can discuss all of these. I think we should shortly discuss them. I don't
Right,
think we should go
yeah.
into all the details.
There's one where it could be its own topic, and it's not
Oh,
going to be one that interests you. So I'm like, I recognize, like, no, don't include extensions, right? I was just like, nope, don't have that conversation.
yeah, yeah,
Just
yeah.
talk about it generically, how it's useful to me. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so I think. Oh, mine are all the first ones. So
Yeah, I just
oh,
did it that way. I
you
thought it'd
didn't
be
sort them.
easier. Because yours are very themed to the things that you do, and mine are
Yeah.
going to be very themed. And I was trying not to the tools I use professionally. Like I put a little of those in there because I kind of also use them in real life.
Mm-hmm.
Like outside of work stuff, they're useful to me. And for we're software guys, right? So like we could talk about software for our profession stuff, and that's a whole different thing. And we are sort of our we sort of share kind of what we do in life professionally. We are sort of the polar opposites of the end of like the ecosystems.
Yep.
So we can't have a common conversation there.
Mm.
We can a little bit, right? Like BB Edit's your first one. I used to use that way back when.
Okay, before we get started on this, I
Yeah.
had to go and buy a new. I've been playing with this during the recording. I had to buy a new battery for one of my Philips Hue switches.
Oh, okay. I never
And
used the switches.
so they have these controller switches. And they
Right.
come
Yeah.
with these 2450 CR2450. So these are
Like
these
these
are
little
the
thin
these
cell
are the
batteries. Yeah. Yep.
2030s.
Yeah. 2350s
2032.
are pretty common. Yeah.
And these, so this size difference.
Oh yeah, yeah.
These are chunguses.
Oh yeah. I you could get a lot of these things. I really just go to a pharmacy.
I
There's,
never
like,
bought
they
these
go to a
before.
pharmacy.
It's like so
Oh.
weird.
I don't know if I ever bought the 2450s, but I have them right there. I'm looking at them, the 2350s down below on the cart.
Yeah, I wonder how long these will last, and like if I could use them for
a
like
lot longer
projects.
than you realize.
Oh.
They have these are the 2350s. These are what common around here.
But these are like these come from the I bought these for the switches.
Well,
Because
so
one of them was out of battery or becoming out of battery, and I was like, okay, I'll just
getting low. So
getting a new one, and then I bought
when's-
3 extra for the other ones.
was that the one that you replaced? Was that the stock battery?
This was the stock battery when I got it.
Yeah,
a
so it
few
only
years ago.
took like what 10 years.
No. This is like
How long have you had
5,
this?
6 years.
Oh, okay, that's still pretty good though. First time
I
you
don't
have
know
to
if it
replace
was
the battery.
5, 6 years. Maybe I've
I
gotten.
feel like
some-
it's longer because you were into the Hue stuff like what, as far as 2012, 2011
no,
maybe?
No. I did start doing the thing since it was 2017, 2018 or something. So it makes
You
sense.
did the early
5, 6
generation.
years.
You did the first generation was where you started.
Yeah, but it was not until we started the podcast. So
Okay. Podcast
Anyway.
is older than that.
no, 2016.
Okay. Okay. So 3 more years. Or at this point, probably, when did we start? Was it October?
Nope, September.
September? Okay.
Anyway,
well, yeah,
these
point is
things are
we're-
so weird. I was looking at. I opened it up. I was expecting to finding those
That
like a
thin
2032 or something like that.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it's not that bad. But then I'm like, wait, this one is bigger than the 2030.
Yeah,
wait, what?
there are numbers for a reason. They have iterations, right? They make different style batteries. It's just that some that we're all familiar with are more commonplace because that's just what they put in consumer hardware.
But it's kind of funny. It's such a chungus compared to the
Yeah.
other one.
Yeah. Interesting.
Anyway,
well, you bought yourself a pack of them, so they should last. For
No, I didn't buy a pack. I bought like
Just the
separate
one?
cards. Yeah, they come in separate cardboard things.
Oh,
So
got it.
it's fine.
They don't come in their own metal cases, where you have to have an unboxing experience for a battery.
No. Anyway, tools, right?
Yeah.
So first one I have is BB Edit. I've
Yeah.
been using that for a while.
Yeah, I did too. That's where I mean,
it's on
look,
the. I think it's only on the Mac, right?
it's only on the Mac. Yeah, it's Mac bare bones, only on
Editor,
the Mac.
yeah.
So here's the thing for those who aren't software people. There are look. We all know Notepad, really basic text that you can type. It's not Word, right? It's not a word processor. It's as plain Jane, and people are like, "Oh, why did you use that? You wouldn't write your term paper in that and you'd submit that in school." I mean, you could, but you wouldn't. That's correct. That's why I use word processing software, right? Like, I don't know what Google's equivalent, Google Pages, or I don't know what you call it, right? Word, Microsoft Word, typically in the Microsoft world. Right. So, yeah. Oh, Google Docs. What am I thinking? Google Docs. Right. So, like, yeah, you could do that. There were processing software. They're meant to be what we call rich text, right? All that formatting and font changes and stuff like that. But in the case of computers, they don't care about you using Comic Sans versus Arial. They don't care about the font data at all. If you're a developer, you represent that in like HTML in a very specific way because of the code language. But from basic read files, save files, there are text editors. That's all they do. They handle the very basic sort of level of understanding text and coding. That being said, then there are these code editors where we start to now attach a bunch of tools and some
Those are IDEs.
IDEs, we call them integrated development environments, which are text editors on steroid, but not like word processors. That's different, right? We don't care about whether you use Papyrus font or Helvetica. We don't care about that on a code level, unless it's for something like a document format like HTML, right? And then again, we represent it in code. We don't. The IDE doesn't care about that. So there are these text editors that are not fully integrated development environments into like a PHP or Microsoft or Mac ecosystem that sit in between, that were the precursors, and things like BBEdit or MATLab's another one that
Sublime.
Sublime, where you can plug in different formats that are not uniquely tied to a specific ecosystem.
Code style and
right. They're like code style editors, but they aren't. Could.
I mean, like they color code code.
Right,
For
color
example,
coding.
BBEdit does PHP support. And stuff, so.
In VS Code, there's a thing called indent rainbows where it colors all your indents and stuff like that. And again, these are important when you do this stuff as a code editor. This stuff's really incredibly useful. You click on the end of your curly bracket.
Also, it's like if you want to open up like a giant right. CSV file and just go through the lines. Or if you want to edit
a JSON object where it's indented and stuff like that. And so there's tools like this that are really useful. And then because they've been around for a while, they have a lot of extensions or plugins or add-ins, whatever vernacular you want to use of the same concept.
I use it a lot when I have like giant CSVs and stuff like that. That's where I use it for, because it's capable of opening those files without
large files.
If I open that thing in like PHP Storm or something like that, PHP Storm goes poof.
You're right. And so there are these things that were never attached to like Oracle's database thing, right? There are these things that live in between, and they're incredibly useful for like people like me and John. So BBEdit is that, and that's it. I wanted to sort of put this whole ceremony and say it's really useful, you should use it. It's not what you should be writing your dissertation in. That being said, back in the day, when word processors weren't so common, this is what people wrote their dissertations in. They wrote a Vim or Pico or something like that. So Pine.
It's a really well supported, really well good tool.
Yeah.
Polymatic 1A4 for that one.
Yeah, and that's when I was doing HTML. It let me sort of know that I wasn't doing the wrong thing by the color coding, right? The parsing, right? Active parsing. So okay.
Next one is Obsidian. It's a personal wiki of sorts. I think that's the best way to describe it.
It's like
it uses Markdown for
right. It's like
things
like BBEdit for Markdown, but for you meant to be like a OneNote replacement.
It's like your personal
or an Evernote
documentation
replacement.
system. And you can like
Right.
write it to a vault, and the vault is just text files in a directory, and
Mhm.
you can sync those with like a Dropbox or something like that.
Yeah.
They also have like a syncing system in
Yeah, you can pay
that
for
you
some
can pay
like
for.
professional
Yeah.
services and cloud stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, but I just use my Dropbox for it because that's what I use for it. It's
If you
really
just
nice. I love it.
look at it for the care of just the documents and linking and stuff like that, and some other plugins, and it has like visualizations and stuff like that. So there's like some
I like it
add-ins.
because it has markdown files,
Mhm.
and I can just copy those files into like some stuff for like documentation for work, or
Mhm.
documentation for myself, or if I
Yeah.
want to write documentation for a new project, then I'm gonna put up at some point.
Yep.
Then just type it in there, and I can see what it looks like visually, and just paste it onto like
Yep.
GitHub or whatever, and it works. It's really nice. Polymatic link /1A5 for that one. Then there's OmniFocus. This is my to-do list, and I love it. And every day I use it to keep track of stuff that I need to do. It allows me to do notifications and all sorts of stuff. And you can do templates for like if you have podcast routines or whatever, and just stuff you need to do every single time. It allows you to quickly make it and then not forget that you need to do it, because it will remind you until you do something about it. It's the Polymatic link /1A6 for that one. Then I have JetBrains PHP Storm. JetBrains does a lot of IDEs. I think it also does the Android IDE for Android development.
Okay.
And I use PHP Storm on a daily basis. I have a
JetBrains-
personal license and I have an office license.
Mhm.
And I use the personal license like a couple of times a week for myself. It is not cheap, but it is a really
No.
good editor for PHP stuff. And it also does, I think some of the JetBrains IDE stuff, IntelliJ stuff
Yeah,
comes from
they
them.
have stuff for Java. They have stuff for if you want an alternative for like C#. If you're like on a Mac and you don't want Microsoft stuff, you could.
You can also use it
you
in
could
Windows.
get. You can do JetBrains. They have a variation that's for like Microsoft stuff too.
Yeah. But
right.
I love their editors because it's so fast and it's so nice.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, Android Studio is not bad, but it's not great either.
Oh no,
Right.
it's gotten a lot better. I
also
remember
speaking from like 10 years ago. I'm not speaking from like last week.
I remember when it was Eclipse and it was so bad.
Oh yeah, Eclipse. Oh my God, that IntelliSense, right? You start typing and then like give it a half hour, go get some coffee, come back. It would be finishing going through the list.
I
And
hated
you just type the
writing
first
apps
character.
in that thing. It crashed so
Yeah.
many times. But
It did-
PHP
they
Storm,
did it-
the JetBrains thing really works well. So
Yeah.
Polymatic link /1A7 for that
And
one.
this is an example of an IDE that is not made by said brand. Like it's not made by Zend.
No.
Right. Yeah.
But they have like lots of extensions and stuff for it.
Right. They make a
support the latest
basic
version of PHP.
IDE that can plug in different like different ecosystems. Right.
I wouldn't
So,
call
like
it a
Java.
basic IDE because it has like so many like full feature stuff, like Code With Me and all sorts of other stuff.
Okay. So maybe not a basic IDE. It's a base framework that the IDE itself is capable of taking other languages, and then they make very specific versions like where they plug it in, they fill it up with like the PHP templates or the IntelliJ or the
I think
Microsoft
you can even
ones.
like add some extensions for other languages in there. I think there's like you can do TypeScript and stuff with like the PHP
Yep.
Storm version. So
Yep.
it's really nice. Basically everything their PHP Storm is like a repackage of their base IDE and then certain plugins automatically added.
Yep.
Or
And
something like
I'll talk about
That's
the
what it looks like.
equivalencies on the other polar end of the world. How that's done.
Okay, next one is Lychee Slicer, Polymatic link
Yeah.
/1AI. Funny name. It's a slicer for doing stuff with resin printers, and it's so far it's been really good with my Elegoo Mars. It's a really good slicer, and it's supported by ads. So you have to, when you do the slicing, it shows you an ad for something.
Oh, that's annoying.
It works. It's fine. I might eventually buy a license for it,
Yeah.
but then again, I don't want to pay every month for something. That's
Oh,
why I
okay.
like
I got you.
Simplify 3D,
Yeah.
because that's the next thing I've linked, because you pay for a license and that's the license. You don't pay per month a
Right.
license fee. I don't want to
I
pay
hate that.
$5 or ten
Yeah.
bucks a month for something I use like once or twice a
Yeah.
year.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a comment about that for one on my list as well.
Okay, so Polymatic link slash one AI for a good slicer for resin prints. Then you have Simplify 3D, which is a very good slicer for at least that I've used for like when I had a FlashForce Creator Pro. I don't have it anymore. I gave it away, but it's a good slicer for like, it's a paid slicer, but it has
Mm-hmm.
profiles for multi-material stuff and whatever. So Polymatic link slash 1AJ for that one. Then we have Fusion 360. If you don't know what Fusion 360 is, it's a CAD software from Autodesk.
Mm-hmm.
It's you can use it as a hobbyist for free, I think. So Polymatic link slash 1AK for that one.
Mm-hmm.
And then OpenSCAD, which is like basically programming. You can program a 3D model, so you can with code write your model. Closer to CAD software in the past, where you just write out, oh, make a square here, and then cut out that part from this part, and then link it to this, and yeah,
Right.
then extrude it this way, and they have all sorts of functions in there you can use to model your thing, but you model it with code, and which also
Mm-hmm.
means that you can make it very variable, where you can just modify the variables in the top of your script, and it will generate a different object, like
Yep.
a bigger or smaller, whatever the parameters are for your stuff. So the parametric stuff is also what I think Thingiverse uses. So if you put an OpenSCAD on there, allows you to make it parametric. So you can design your own thing that just generates a model for you.
Mm.
So Polymatic link slash 1AL. I think.
Okay. All right, so we're jumping into my stuff. I don't have as many things, but I definitely have some things
You have the
that
same
I would
amount,
consider
dude.
sort of. Do I? I guess I did add a bunch.
Yeah,
Um,
for the software side,
yeah.
yes.
So this is sort of falls in the area of stuff that I do a lot, and these are the kind of the software tools that I use sort of pretty actively. There's more, but these are sort of fundamental. So I'm going to skip over VS Code for just a moment to talk about Visual Studio. So Visual Studio has really always been Microsoft's sort of IDE. But because they have different language offerings, they always had their IDE, which was that sort of, as I was referring to, like with JetBrains, was basically a base IDE framework, and then they offered different language compatibilities like that could be plugged into the framework. Now, Microsoft has written maybe 90% of all the stuff for the Visual Studio. The reason the Visual is there because they somewhere in the early on it was beyond just text. Right, HTML wasn't around, and then they started, having things where you needed to be able to do GUI programming, right? So for your desktops and your native stuff, and so that's what the visual part of it was. And then over the course of time, it's been this is an area where you wouldn't know it, but this is an area where Microsoft excelled. They built something that was amazing, and you could plug in whatever languages offerings they had. And then some people are like, oh, I'm going to write an extension to support, Java and PHP and Python. And those were where people wrote those extensions and had that language support. And you could be on Windows and use Visual Studio. And it used to be a pay only thing, and eventually they created a community edition, which was free or express, whatever. And you could just do all your coding there if you wanted. And so anyhow, that's what Visual Studio is about, and it's I hate to say it, but it's the thing that everyone else copied, which is how we got Eclipse and how we got P8, JetBrains, variation in Sublime and Atom and all that stuff. And then what they did is though they made a much lighter weight much faster, much, not, you don't buy the whole tank in the aircraft carrier, right? That Visual Studio once was and still is kind of, right? It's meant for much more industrial purposes and a little less of, I'm going to build a website this weekend. And then Microsoft was like, all right, well, everyone else is doing that and they improved on what we were doing with Visual Studio. Let's make a lighter weight version that's cross-platform, and that's where Visual Code came around. And then they took
That's Visual Studio Code, right?
Visual Studio Code, and they took the
Yeah.
lessons learned from what JetBrains was doing and things like Sublime was doing, and and BB Edit, and they sort of took those things and they made a really super lightweight thing that was cross-platform, one for all, called Visual Studio Code. And then that's where you could write add-ins. And those extensions basically is where the language support will come from. So you wouldn't have to replace Visual Studio Code, the IDE, and upgrade it to get the newer version of the language support. You would just have an update to your language extension, and it can support your SQL, your JavaScript, your TypeScript, your everything. And people have written a lot of good things. And then there are extensions that, like, for example, there's a thing for when you open up CSV files that does color coding for you to make it easier to read. And it handles all the indentation and the formatting if you want, and it supports basically just about everything. Now, it's probably not where you start to do your Java, because you need more of an industrial tank kind of solution like Eclipse or Visual Studio, or even probably wouldn't even use Java with Visual Studio. It's really not the native place where you'd start. But if you had a short need to open up a PHP file with indents and it being sort of understanding the language, someone's written a thing for that. If Visual Code is your place for it. That being said, it's also a lot of where people, when they're doing web frameworks, this is where they start. They don't normally go to a JetBrains product. They open up Visual Code, download it, and they have all their JavaScript support and their TypeScript, and recognizes CSS and does all this color coding. And so it's like, that's a thing that's, again, an area where not necessarily Microsoft's invention, but an area where they did really well. So let me give you two links. Visual Code, or VS Code is what we typically call it. Polymatic.link/1AN and 1AO. And I use it kind of like note taking, where I just create a text file and I put my notes in it. It's sort of like my version of Obsidian, where I don't care about the formatting. I just care about like indents and it can handle emojis if I wanted to put a little check mark. Like, it can do all that, right? So I use that for note taking at work. I use it for even at home. I use it to do web coding as well. Most of the time I'll start with a template in Visual Studio when I'm doing a Microsoft related thing. But if I'm working on a web framework, I will choose to do it in VS Code. So yeah. And then out of, just to kind of keep this sort of train running, when I worked for a job where they were an Oracle house. Probably in modern day they didn't need to be, but as the oligarchy as it was, they started with Oracle back in the 90s, and they had such an arrogancy about, like, they were doing Microsoft things with Oracle as their backend database. And there was never any good SQL sort of IDEs. Microsoft had a good one, but it was uniquely tied to their server, SQL Server. And so a bunch of guys who were on Oracle was like, well, Oracle's stuff sucks. And we want what, the Microsoft equivalent was. So they created something called Toad, which is an acronym. And while it's clunky and it was ugly and it was one of those $800 per developer license for an enterprise company, which was a discount, it was a pretty good tool replacement. And if you're doing Oracle, Dev Studio sucks. You never use it. It's just it's the worst thing ever. And, Oracle should, I mean, shame on them for not doing a better job, but,
Well,
whatever it was.
shame on
So
Oracle for a lot of things.
everyone pays $1,000 per license every freaking year for, a developer license. And it's called Toad. And then they made variations of it, not just Oracle. You pay that for MySQL, and you could do it for Postgres, and you can do it for, I think the MySQL one was free. But to the point is, there's this better SQL IDE out there, and when Microsoft came around, a couple guys, they were in love with VS Code, and they're like, hey, we need to do some tweaking and make VS Code support SQL stuff. And they took the basis of VS Code, and because it's open source, and they made a version that was friendly for all databases. So Postgres and Oracle and SQL and MySQL and you name it. And that became a project that Microsoft was like, hey, you're using our thing. We love this. Can we hire you? And then they created a thing called Azure Data Studio. They rebranded it. So now not only does it connect all the cloud stuff, it connects all to your on-prem servers. But it just got attached to, it was originally called SQL Data Studio or something like that. And so when they hired the team to let them support this, it became Azure Data Studio. And I use it all the time. Occasionally, when I got to do server level things, I need to use the Microsoft SQL Studio Manager. But for the most part, 99% of my stuff can be done in Azure Data Studio. And it brings all of those sort of code capable things with very specific tweaking for SQL. And it's free. And you don't have to pay $900 a license per developer. It seems obnoxious that for someone, when I want to go connect to my SQL server, I can use something that's modern, that's lightweight, and cross-platform.
Yeah, so JetBrains also has in their PHP Storm stuff.
Right.
You can just add databases. They have like for all sorts of different types
and
of
databases. Visual Studio does that too. They've always had something built in like that too. And but if I want to,
well, it used to be really bad, but now it's really good. They have a new tool as a separate. It is as a separate tool. I think it's Data Grip. It's called, I think, but like the same database edit stuff is in there for like PHP Storm. And so you just use the same thing.
There's other things like Hexcad, and I think you have one that you like or something, but it's mostly tweaked for MySQL, and it's still $800 or whatever, and it just seems obnoxious.
No, I've been mostly using the PHP Storm stuff because it's just really
right, because it works for you. Yeah. So in the case of Azure Data Studio, the one of the things that's really nice is I can go do a query, pull data back out, and then I can this came from the group, not necessarily from, they now work for Microsoft, but there are some things like you can do in Excel that are just really nice. Like you can go click on a column and it'll tell you at the bottom, like sum the columns or the counts, or tell you how many distinct things, or you could do the drop pick list and filter on, right, from your results in your worksheet. Well, you can integrate some of that stuff. So I go and I do a query, and I want to look at distinct task types. I can go click on a little drop down, and within a limit of like 5,000, no greater than 5,000, and it will show me the distinct. And it's not going to go back to the database. It already just pulled 5,000 down, so it will let me do little refinements and export that to, or import that to JSON or CSV or XML. And it's just all built in. It's lightweight. And, oh, by the way, very well built dark theme, or whatever color theme you want, because they're borrowing the theming mechanism from VS Code. So you want it white and bright, you want it dark, you want it, your Game of Thrones theme. I don't mean like tacky with graphics and moving cursors and stuff, but you can do all that stuff that, like, those theming things that came from Sublime. Sublime sort of invented that. So anyhow, really great tool, especially if you're in that universe. And I showed a couple people at work. Oh, the other thing that they did is Microsoft, again, this is where they really have adopted really good, positive open source things. But Jupyter Networks makes this is a thing if you're doing Python notebooks, Jupyter notebooks, where they're like code scratch pads with some like markdown capability, so you can kind of like write a word processing document for code that can actually run and execute your code. That's what notebooks are for Jupyter. Notebooks are so heavy use in Python. So Microsoft is like, hey, Jupyter, can we do something with you so that we can do a SQL kernel? And they're like, yeah, absolutely. And so they have these SQL notebooks. So last job I was at, all these, instead of passing around these scripts or whatever in development, I'm like, no. I can make a SQL notebook. You can open up an Azure Data Studio. It not only tells you what you need to do, but then you can go ahead and run your snippets of SQL queries here and see the results there with all the sort of, rich IDE, functionality built in. So anyhow, Azure Data Studio, highly recommended.
5 hours
1AP.
later.
Yeah. All right. Notion. Notion is
did you link it?
I did. 1AP. Okay. Notion. Notion is.
I hate Notion.
Yeah, I like it for some use case. It's not an Obsidian replacement. It's certainly not an Evernote or a OneNote replacement. Surprisingly, I guess people in filming and stuff like to use it to organize. It's sort of like, kind of like what Obsidian does, but also kind of like what OneNote does. But it's not a full-on replacement. It's a case where like you want to create a template that stores data and not necessarily like allows you to give like a pseudo database.
I think it's more of like an OmniFocus style thing.
Maybe. So I originally paid for it. I stopped paying for it when I was sort of cutting costs. This was mainly, and with the last job I was at, until they took issue with me using Notion, I made up a timesheet template for me because I had an average of like, I had so many meetings a day and I had so many things to do. And, HR was micromanaging the time recording. And of course, so was, for the projects, you had to book all my time everywhere and whatever. So I would take notes of what I did on the regular as a template and whatever it was, and I could record time in it. And it would chart, like how many of the fraction of the 8 or 12 hours I was working a freaking day. And so I was able to, like, on my side monitor, go ahead and just sort of type in a place and track my time. And then when I had to make up all the timesheets and fill all the stuff in, I was able to, like, kind of store pseudo data. And oh, by the way, when my laptop was off, I could pull it up on my phone. So everything was cloud sync. I don't use it as much today. I've been trying to use it to do something. It's not, from the thing I want to track, it's not good enough because the way the generic interface works. But I've also seen a lot of people really use it to their advantage. It's really just sort of your own personal document and database. So Notion, Notion.so or Polymatic.link/1AQ. You can use it free for personal use. If you want to use it collaboratively, and then you have to pay for it. Google Keep, that's my simple note-taking thing. It's mostly I use on between my desktop and my phone. I just need to have something on the go, and it's lightweight, and I don't need to use OneNote and do a whole 365 Microsoft off. I don't need all that. I don't need all that. I don't need a stream of consciousness note-taking app. I just need something to write some information down and have it available for me briefly or as a constant, and I use it a lot. Google Keep, free by Google. If you got a Google account for anything, you have access to it. Keep.google.com or polymatic.link/1AR. Series Guide. Series Guide is something I've had. It's an Android app. I don't know. I don't think they have it in iOS. Like OmniFocus isn't available outside iOS.
Outside of the Apple ecosystem,
yeah. So Series Guide is a thing that is sort of there's a like IMDb, but I think it's free. It's called Track TV, where it basically people who are enthusiastic about movies and TV shows put all of it's like a database, internet database for stuff like that. And Series Guide is a Android. I think it's free now. It used to not be free. Where I can kind of cloud sync between my devices, really only Android devices. But I basically, if I've watched an episode of something, I tell her what the TV series is, and it says, I set when I watched it. And it's also how I know when a TV show has been canceled. So, because I can get some status and data about it, or how many episodes to a season, that kind of stuff. I don't use it to track movies because it's, way too late. I've seen so many movies in my life and I can't remember them all. But I do track pretty consistently with TV. And oh, by the way, I go and I open up the recent tab. So if a new show showed up, I don't have 1,000 things notifying me by email and text and pushing to my phone. I just go to Series Guide and go, oh, what recently came out? Oh, that thing came out on Tuesday. All right, I'll go watch that. So that's how I manage my life with respect to that. Series Guide, Polymatic.link/1AS. And then Dark Audacity is what I use. It was a branch off before Audacity got bought by some evil Russian mob or something. So one of the guys who helped create Audacity, he wanted to branch off and create a version that was prettier, and it's really just inverted UI coloring scheme, but it's dark, and I prefer it. It's a little faster. It's a little less. It hasn't been sold. It's still open source, but it's really maintained by one person, which is there's never any updates. And that's how I edit podcasts, and it's what I prefer over Audition or Premiere or something like that with respect to editing my podcast. And then last, this is more
Polymatic link/1AV for that one.
1AV, yeah. And then last, in terms of software, something that I don't really think of as a tool, but I use it all the time, and I absolutely love it. And they even had a recent update that's really nice. It's there used to be a long time ago in Win 98, Win 95 time, Microsoft had created a bunch of extensions to Windows they called Power Toys, and it was a thing that you could download and install for Microsoft. And when they got to Windows 10, they made a bunch of those sort of things, add-ons that makes Windows even nicer, and maybe the equivalency of things that like are available in Mac OS and stuff like that. They came up, one of their teams came up with this thing called Power Toys, and they sort of relit that project for Windows 10, and it works great in Windows 11. It's called Microsoft Power Toys, and it does all kinds of things. Like I can do Windows space, and I can get to the OS, or do a replacement to, let's say, the start menus like Spotlight. I can better Windows snapping and management, not a replacement of what's it called in Mac OS when you sort of
Spotlight?
have all the
What?
Not Spotlight, when you do the Alt Tab equivalent, and you have all the windows, you can move them around between monitors. I think there's a name for it.
Spaces?
I forgot what it. Maybe.
Spaces?
Maybe it had a different name originally with like an E or something.
Yeah.
But some of the enhancements that are in Windows 11 started with fancy zones and stuff like that, so you can sort of create a multitude of different zones in your between monitors and stuff like that, the snapping. The one that was neat that they just added this week was between my two computers, you can, they called the extension plugins called Mouse Without Borders. So what you can do is you can connect multiple PCs to it through, in the Power Toys through this extension that they built into Power Toys. And so I can move my mouse to my far, whatever I configure it, and it will go over to this, let's say this PC if they're both on. So that was neat. But the real kind of three things worth noting that I use a lot. They have a color picker, which works through the whole OS. They have, in Chrome, you can do Control-Shift-V, and you can paste plain text without all the rich formatting and crap in it. Well, they have a version of that where it's like, and again, you can configure all the key bindings as long as they're not in conflict, but like you can do Control-Shift, like Alt-V, and you can paste as plain text between apps.
Yeah, I have Power Toys as well.
Yeah, and then the color picker, which is great. And then one that's neat that I don't use a lot, but when you're doing a lot of UI stuff, they have a thing called Screen Ruler. So you can measure between spaces between UI elements in any app.
Yeah.
Another one that's neat that I use more at work, not at home. They have, it's not perfect, but someone wrote a plugin where you can do, you can kind of take like a screen snippet real time, and it will OCR the text, and it will put that in your clipboard. So there's a ton of things at Power Toys, and it's only getting better. There's some things I don't use. There's one for
it's called Text Extractor.
Text Extractor. Yeah, it's really great. It's free. And to the point is, like, I showed a coworker Text Extractor because she copied a big paragraph from someone's screenshot. And I'm like, oh, there's a spelling mistake there. It's like, we should fix that before. Like, oh, thank you for that. And I'm like, hey, use this. It won't be perfect, but it'll take those 3 paragraphs, and then you can go and proofread it and clean up the stuff. So it's really good. I love it. And that's polymatic.link/1AW. Amazing. And again, one of those areas Microsoft is doing a really good job. So, okay, enough of that. On the hardware, I have very few. You have a lot.
Yeah. Okay, so I have, I will go through this really fast.
Yeah.
iFixit tools, screwdrivers, I love them. Polymatic link/1A8. I use them for mostly all the electronics fixing and whatever. Ugreen power supplies, that's where I get most of the stuff these days. I used to buy, I didn't have like the ones that they have from Ugreen. With like 3 USB-Cs and a USB-A, and then the new power supply technology stuff.
Ugreen is one of those sort of weirdly generically named brands like Anker.
Yeah, but it's gotten pretty good.
That's gotten really good. Yeah.
So Polymatic link/1A9 for those. Key Smart Organizer. My keychain is always on this. I used to have like a whole bunch of keys that would stick into the side of my my pants and were sharp. So I got this, and then suddenly it's no longer a problem because I just fold them all into one little, looks like a pocket knife. Polymatic link/1AA for that. If you're doing a lot of soldering, you need to keep the tip clean. So Polymatic link/1AB for a Hacko tip cleaner. These are wonderful. They're just some metal shavings that you stick the soldering tip into, and then it's clean. That's Polymatic link/1AB. And then the Pine-Sil, which is a soldering iron. You can power it off USB-C.
Yeah.
Polymatic link/1AC, and it has its own OS, so you can update the OS on it. That's pretty cool. And then the TS100 soldering iron, Polymatic link/180. I think that's very similar to. I think they even run the same OS, but it's a very nice soldering iron. It doesn't run off USB-C though.
There's been a lot of, I wouldn't say innovation, but a lot of improvement with soldering irons. Because when I was a kid and I did it, it was like the power cord was always in the way. Or my father had a really nice one, but it was like holding a drill, basically. And then the cheap ones you got from Radio Shack were, well, they were much more manageable, but the sort of the power cord would always drag on you, and there was no temperature control. It's always a pain.
Yeah, but these things are like the size of like a marker.
Yeah. And then Pine-Sil is just like, it's amazing. Like they have figured it out. Yeah. And they're portable, and there's no drag of a power cord with you. Like it's great.
Yeah. Okay. So next one, and this is more of like a stuff that I've used in the past and I'd like. If I wasn't currently on Wacom, I would be on XP Pen. So XP Pen tablets, they're pretty good. Polymatic link/1AE. They're not bad like the other brands. There's some other brands that are really bad, and they produce like wobbly lines and whatever. In the XP pen, I haven't had that problem yet. So at least I haven't had it as bad as with the other ones. And
I mean,
these are XP pen is made by people who used to work for Wacom, I think.
Got it. Okay. I was going to say, because in that universe of people who care about that kind of stuff, I mean, isn't it come down to Wacom or an iPad?
No, there's some other brands too, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I don't remember what the...
It used to be Curta, used to be one that was really good. Way before Wacom, when Wacom was still like a nobody, like everybody.
So there's another brand called Huion. And
okay, right.
I don't ever want to buy from them again.
Right, yeah. You had said that because they were sort of the cheap Chinese alternative to Wacom.
Yeah. Well, XP Pen is also alternative, but it's really good. Their stuff works really well. Wacom Cintiq 24 Pro, Polymatic.media/1AF. That's the one I use currently. I'm looking to maybe get the new 27-inch one at some point in the near future, maybe. But they're like $3,000.
Yeah, they're expensive.
It's a bit expensive, but it's a really nice sized one. So yeah. Anyway, so for 3D printing, I currently have an Elegoo Mars, Polymatic.1AG, and that's for resin printing, and the Ender 3, which is the like a cheapo FDM printer. It's like $190 or something like that. Polymatic.1AH for that one, and then I have a steamdeck Plus, Polymatic.1AM, and I love that thing. It allows me to control like audio levels and whatever, and
little dials and stuff like that.
It's really nice, and also like for controlling like stuff in like in streaming, like an OBS and whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for a lot of that stuff, there used to be a lot of dials that I used a lot in editing. I used to be a real fan of the Contour Shuttle Pro or Express. Doesn't matter. I've had like 3 or 4 of them or something. And I used to use that jog in editing, but now with context between the shift and the mouse wheel, I can get everything I need in my editing experience, right? It's integrated and it's really just a combination between 2 hands, and I don't need that anymore. So for things like Stream Deck with like dials on it, well, we've seen lots of everyone trying to do fancy things and badly. Where maybe the physical control is better, but the software integrations are shit. This is one of those cases where Elgato has been doing a reasonably good job with their software. Reasonably. Their software is finicky at times when you have
I made some automations to export layers and whatever from Clip Studio in recent months, and it's been really nice to do that with like I have a button to export stuff.
Yeah, so when I saw that new sort of thing, I was like, how would I use that? I probably wouldn't, because the cases where I would want to jog or, little advanced frame, like I got that between my shift control and mouse wheel.
Some people are just used to that. So
yeah, it's just I don't need to physically move my hand off those spaces too much too often. So
okay.
Okay, so my last 3. In terms of hardware, I
last
have an LT. Last 2. Oh, right, you had
mine was the last one.
Yeah. I definitely have like an LTT screwdriver, and I will say it has been my go-to because it has. It's not on this list, but I didn't bring it up as a primary thing. Comparison to your iFixit. I use it. I use it a lot. It's actually really good. So no reason. We've already linked it in the past. But the 2 things that I kind of use most with like podcasting, because that is, as of late, really has been the area of my crafting. I use the Zoom Live Track. I'm talking through it right now. It's a board that's also a recorder. We probably talked about this in the past. I am a fan of Zoom recording equipment. The Live Track, Zoom Live Track L20. They have not updated this board. They made a new version. It was meant to be a rack mount, but it hasn't been any iteration on this thing. And I'm looking for like the new fancy version. But
I have the L8.
And you have the L8. You're talking to the L8. Polymatic.link/1AT. Some of the new stuff that's really new equipment that is tweaked for creative live streaming and podcasting stuff. Roadcaster has been doing really good. There's the Go Live, and I think Mackie has something new like the DS3 or something like that. That is, these are sort of like not really like these pseudo specialty boards, but for me, my scale when I had people here, I needed something large like this. You would think, oh, I don't need 20 channels. Like, you'd be surprised. You put 6 people in a room, and you'd be surprised how many of those channels you end up using. So, and then my desk, my audio interface is a little bigger. I really use it in the most minimal way, but when I do editing, I need to use headphones, no Bluetooth. There's too much delay there. Polymatic.link/1AU. This is for the PreSonus Studio 1824. I've had a number of these things, like, this kind of style thing. This can take up 8 channels. More than that, maybe 16. I'm seeing a bunch on the front. I think there's 8 in the back. Point being is, it's a really good preamp that I use to sort of listen to and do my editing with. So the last 2 was for the Zoom L20, Polymatic.link/1AT, and then for the PreSonus Studio 1824C, Polymatic.link/1AU. Not that expensive a board. I just chose PreSonus because they have really good preamps. Over the Fosrite or something like that, Fostech. What's the one that you got, Scarlett?
Oh, but I only use that for like my other machines.
Right. Yeah, it's all like, oh, you need an audio interface to get that. And I'm like, I mean, they're not bad. They're not the best. There are actually people who make real, like, boards
I just use
and
my
preamps.
I just use my Zoom.
Right. Or you could use, if you have an integration with your board, you could use your Zoom, because I don't have it set up that way, but I do take the ASIO directly from the board right into Adobe Audition and record each channel discreetly. So, it's really a powerful device for that. So, okay, well, that's it. That's all my stuff.
Yeah, I think we've gone through everything.
Yeah. I don't know how long we were recording. Long enough.
2 hours. Yes. Okay. So let me quickly go through this. Alan, where can they find you on the internet? Polymatic.link/Alan for that one. For me, you can find me at Polymatic.link/John. For feedback, you can reach us at podcast@Polymatic.media. For Twitter, the Polymatic. Our website is Polymatic.media. And I hope you tune in next time. Just preempt it. I just say, okay. I'm not even asking anymore.
I wasn't gonna interrupt you. I was like, finally, you've been trained.
You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna pre-record this and just slap it in at the end.
Yeah, that's fine. That's good.
Yeah.
You just do your perfect version of that, and then just tack it on. It's not like that. That isn't like what everyone else does, anyways.